Who is Miles Dellaha?
Honestly, I don't know.
Who is Jake Linslada?
Just someone who loves nature.
Who is Alex Fumi?
Coolest guy you ever met, man.
Who is Claire Guillemot?
Regular, the fountain of death.
My name's Alex, I play the drums.
My name's Miles, I play guitar and I sing. My name's Claire and I play the guitar.
My name's Jake, I play bass guitar. We're C+, and we're here with Neighborhood Noises.
So, there was a better band name. Can I say it? Can I say it?
No.
No. I wanted us to be called Central Air. With just spelled correctly, like an AC unit, and I thought it was so cool, and I just got shut down. Just like the hardest rejection I think I've ever faced in my life was not getting that name.
We got so tired of it, we were just sitting on my porch, and I go, yo, what if we just do C+ and we spell it weird? And they were like, what? And I just go like SEEPLUS, and they were like, that would get confusing, and it did.
Yeah, as much as we'd like to create a new genre for our music, I think it's just indie rock.
Yeah, we just make indie
pop
music.
Indie pop. I would say we don't draw from the past as much as maybe some of the other people around us. I would say we're trying to stay with modern influences. I would say it's a very modern sound. It's not futuristic, it's not vintage.
We're not taking shit from the 80s.
Yeah, nothing is from the 80s, or especially the 60s.
If we were an ice cream flavor though.
Salty caramel.
Ooh.
It's vanilla, but with like a little bit of spice.
It's a little boring, but it surprises you every once in a while.
Listen, it's feel-good music for when you don't feel good.
You don't have to think too hard, you know? Yeah, I think you know like a song is finished when like you finish like writing it and you bring it to the rest of them, and I feel like air will change. You'll be like, okay, it's less like let's try this out and more like let's nail this part or let's nail this part. So personally, like when I'm like up in my room writing a song, I need to like at least have like structure to it, and then once I can ask all of them individually if they don't hate the song, or they ask me if I don't hate the song, and I'm like at that last like day or two when we're like, okay, like are we getting towards the end? I'm like, I let all grievances go. I'm like, I hate this and I hate this, and once there's no one like hating any part of it, then it's sort of complete.
You kind of feel it, like when you play it for that final time before you go into the studio, and you play it and it's like, oh, this sounds like a actual song.
Yeah.
Instead of just like four dudes in a basement playing noise. It's a weird feeling because you don't feel it anywhere else other than when you've been working on something for a while and it finally just clicks.
Yeah.
It's like I guess when you're like building a puzzle or like building a really big Lego set, you put that like last piece in and you just like step back and you're like, oh yeah.
I'm So Cold is like a quarantine baby. In May of 2020, I learned how to use like Ableton, and I was just like trying to write something because I hadn't written anything since the EP came out, Better in Person, and I was just like putting some jangly chords together, and I ended up making the whole song in my bedroom in like 2 days, and then it just sort of sat there for a year-ish, and then once we started practicing again and decided that we wanted to put something out, I was like, what about this one? And so it's sort of been almost a rewrite, because again, like they've had to. I've known what this song has sounded like for a year, but they haven't.
Then I came along and fucked it up.
So they've had to sort of almost learn the song and then rewrite it. So they have to learn exactly the parts that I put down and then rewrite it, because I'm not married to those parts. It's just like we have to sort of hit that minimum and then make it our own. And it sounds pretty different now. So he sends me the words, obviously, because you know it's my forte, right? He sends me the words, and I'm looking at these, and I'm like, damn, these are some pretty interesting lines. I think I know what you're talking about. And I read each line individually, like forgetting about meanings, reading it like as a sentence, like as a piece of language, and I'm like, that's a sentence fragment. That is not a human word. And going through, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Wait, what? So what? We've had to have a bit of a Google Translate. So when I write a song, it's more, I'm always playing guitar when I'm writing a song. So I, almost to a fault, like I have to figure out chords, and then a melody, and then I don't sort of like lock myself into words much, so I'll write the chords, write like the melody, just like hum it out, and then if words come, that's great, but if not, I'll always do them later. So yeah, it's always like a together thing. So. And then I'll try to do 2 parts always, but kind of recently I've been just sort of figuring out how to make a song and not like a verse, because it's very easy to just write a verse, be like, oh, I'm awesome, I'm a great songwriter, and put the guitar down, and you lose that sort of energy. So it's kind of all, for me, and I'm sure for you as well, it sort of all sort of happens at once, and then you have to like hold on to those ideas and keep them, so that when we're writing as a band, I'm like, oh, I had this idea, or I had this break or line or something that I wanted to put in. So.
Yeah, it's definitely like a fit of inspiration. Like you have to write it in one shot. You can't put it down and then say, oh, I'm gonna work on this later. I mean, like half the time it gets thrown away. If you forget about it for too long, it gets thrown away. So it's all about just doing it in one shot. You know?
Yeah, especially with this group, like we're very much.
You can't put it down or else it gets forgotten about. Look at like how many songs
There's
have
been so
died.
many songs that have just
Cemetery.
died.
There's a whole ass graveyard.
And once it's put down, it's easy just to kind of pick it up and, and play around with it, or just put it back down again.
Pick it up for a warm up.
And it's always good to play around. You work on one song for so long. By the time you want to work on another song, you're like it's such a breath of fresh air just to work on something else for a minute. just to leave that idea and come back to it another time. It really is a breath of fresh air.
The message behind the song is sort of like a contradiction in itself, almost. So when I first wrote it, I wanted it to be like this very like idyllic like picturesque like story, and then in the choruses, I wanted it to sort of be a reflection on how like the speaker, me, or the main character, whoever you want it to be, is like not happy in like a perfect situation, and obviously this is like coming right out of quarantine, and it's like a lot of feelings of like self-doubt or whatever, and there's more material to come that will make the song make a little bit more sense, but I think it's very much, to me, like the beginning of a story, and sort of sets up how like us or me or whoever is the speaker of the song like is as a person, you know. And so I tried to give it a little bit of story, but a lot of character too.
Yeah. You listening to it at like max volume on I-95 doing 90, scream crying.
Yeah.
Just anybody's the subject. It's like the subject.
It's a good way to introduce themes that are a little less happy-go-lucky, let's all party and have a good time.
So we knew this was going to be our next single like 2 weeks ago. There's been a lot of internal debate about what we should do. Obviously, I know this is like a very like, I'm alone in this, but I wasn't like stoked on quarantine. Like I was not really happy about it. Like we put a whole lot of work into Better in Person, and it was like, you know, our favorite piece up until then, and then we got to play 1 show, 2 shows off of it, and so
1 show.
I wasn't super like rushing to put out new material. I was sort of hoping we could still promote our old stuff, but Jake made a very good point. He was like, you know, it happened.
It's not about what happened, it's about where we go after it, you know?
Everybody kind of got pushed to the back.
Yeah, we're ready to come back out and come strong and say, hey, like, we're still here, we're still around, we still are playing music and trying our best at it.
Yeah, and we had maybe 3 or 4 songs that were like, oh, this could be the first one back, this could be, you know, where we go, and
This one felt right.
Yeah.
It felt the most.
It had that energy.
and then
That
about
was the puzzle piece thing. It's like, oh, this sounds like a song.
yeah, and about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we sort of just were like, oh, let's dive in, let's book some studio time, and we're gonna go do it.
It's like we finally all clicked into the same mindset of it's about time that we release some music.
Can all 3 of us say Claire's favorite line?
Say it.
I don't know it.
I know it.
What is it?
We'll do it.
What's
Okay,
favorite?
ready?
Claire's favorite lyric?
It's, I was tripping because my shoes were tangled. You were tripping because you owed me a drink.
So bad.
It's great.
Not so bad.
It's good.
Not so
It's
bad.
like it.
Claire just doesn't.
I enjoy it. I like it.
There it is.
It's musical.
I think it goes together well. I think that should.
Obstacles are gonna be different because first off, we're recording in a different studio,
Yeah.
Totally different.
big new studio, which will be cool. And I think
We're putting a lot of new parts
a
in.
lot of new parts.
We're experimenting a lot.
We're experimenting more, and I don't want to like give anything away, but I think it's gonna fit better into a bigger piece of work.
Mhm.
So we're working on pieces that are gonna make sense with other songs instead of. Admittedly, our last 3 EPs, have been cool, but they haven't been. Let's write an album or let's write a piece of work. So it's
3 songs that were kind of cool.
and we just sort of glued them
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And this is sort of one.
It's part of a whole.
All our projects coming up are gonna feel a lot more intentional.
I mean, like with this, even like before we put all this extra stuff that we're planning on putting in, it's like a lot of this is gonna feel a lot more like we're coming into our own. So it's not gonna feel a lot of the past EPs. The problems that I had, and I believe that we all had, was that a lot of it felt like kind of awkward. Like as much as we were confident in recording, confident in producing, and all that stuff, it felt like this is something that we're getting into. I feel like with this, we're after 4 years, I hope, we're kind of coming into our own and kind of realizing what we're supposed to sound like. We're kind of like realizing the genre that we take up and like the elements that we need to put in that'll make it sound the way we want it to sound and the way that we want it to feel. So yeah, we're just
better, yeah.
straight up better. Like
Before.
we've been. I went and I had never taken like music lessons before, so I was like, let me just do that. My school was offering it. I was like, let me just take some lessons. So I took lessons. You guys have been playing around with new stuff. Like he's been taking piano classes. Like we're all just kind of like becoming better musicians. And so that mixed with like us realizing what we're supposed to be doing with all this type of stuff. I feel like it's gonna really feel like you're listening to something that should be on the radio.
We are C+, and this song is called "I'm So Cold."
1, 2, 3, 4.
You saw me first when I left town. I couldn't believe what you told me, though. I was worried that you couldn't find me, but in the end, knew you'd find me. So when they kissed, I knew that sound.
once again, we are C+. That's SEEPLUS. And you can find our music on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. And our new song, I'm So Cold, is out now. And you should listen to it because it's sick and it's funny because it's out in the summer. You're not cold in the summer.
Not.
That's cool. And we did a cool thing, so we'd listen to it.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Remember to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell so you always get updated on what's to come for Neighborhood Noises interviews. Thanks so much, guys, and see you in the next video. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Thank you. Ah!
Did you get that wing?
I got that wing.